Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into the deep end of modern visual merchandising, specifically looking at how we can use the raw power of neuroscience to turn completely predictable imagery into massive, high-converting assets. We're going to break down the fascinating mechanics of human attention and figure out exactly how you can engineer your visuals to literally stop the consumer's brain right in its tracks.
Think about this quote for a second, because it really is the foundational secret of high-end merchandising. Pretty pictures? Well, they just document reality. They show you the product. But if you want to actually drive sales, you have to manufacture desire by actively breaking the expected visual patterns. Remember, people don't just buy a product. They're buying the empowered version of themselves that uses it. And to spark that kind of intense desire, we have to serve them something they absolutely were not expecting.
All right, let's get into Section 1, the category fatigue problem, specifically focusing on the neurological filter. You know how it is. Our brains are literally hardwired to ignore what we expect to see. It's a well-documented neurological mechanism called habituation. Biology-wise, it's great. It conserves precious cognitive energy. But for marketers, it's a massive, massive hurdle. When entire product categories rely on the exact same visual dialect day in and day out, consumers see it so much that their brains just stop processing it. Your insanely expensive ad campaign basically becomes wallpaper. Just think about how hopelessly predictable some of these industries have gotten. Coffee ads, right? It's always, and I mean always, the bright morning sun, rising steam, and some smiling face wrapped up in a cozy blanket. And perfume? It's a guarantee you're going to get beautiful people walking in slow motion through abstract golden light. Because these patterns are so heavily established, the consumer's brain just filters them out instantly. They're rendered completely invisible. Moving right along to Section 2. Triggering the orienting response. This is our biological solution. So how do we fix this? Well, when the brain encounters something entirely unexpected, it triggers what neuroscientists call the orienting response. This isn't just a preference, it's a hardwired survival mechanism. Physical movement stops, the eyes lock on. Cognitive processing basically hits the pause button on everything else to prioritize this brand new unexpected input. When you break a visual pattern, you are quite literally hacking the brain's survival code to stop the scroll. And here is why that is absolutely crucial for us. That sudden involuntary freeze opens up what we call the conversion window. In that split second, the brain's filtering systems are completely offline. Your image suddenly has 100% cognitive access to the viewer. This perfectly explains why a weird, pattern-breaking image can easily outgun a technically flawless but totally predictable one when we look at actual conversion metrics. Which brings us to Section 3, designing the pattern interrupt. We're talking about creating a complete visual rupture. Okay, so how do you actually execute this kind of visual rupture? There are 3 highly reliable moves you can lean on. First up, take a mass-market product and ground it with artisanal gravity by putting it in highly specific environments. Second, if your category always defaults to bright, flat predictability, hit them with dramatic tonal contrast and deep shadows. And third, ditch the generic smiling lifestyle models for specific, authentic humanity. You've got to pivot incredibly sharply away from whatever is expected. Let's get hands-on in Section 4, Materials, Light, and Shadows, the tactile execution. A truly powerful visual hook leans heavily on material tension. Imagine dropping a sleek, ultra-smooth glass perfume bottle right onto some rugged, brutalist, raw volcanic rock. You instantly elevate its perceived value just through that tension. Or take a highly textured, matte object and place it against ultra-precise, liquid-looking polished chrome. The eye instantly feels that tactile contrast. Before a single word of copy is even read, that texture is translating abstract brand values into instant physical cues. But here's the reality check. Materials are absolutely nothing without light. And lighting isn't just some creative whim. It's heavily engineered physics. The master principle you have to know is that the larger the light source relative to your subject, the softer the light. Matching your light quality to your surface, say using a small, harsh directional light to carve out a rugged texture, that is pure physics at work. And speaking of physics, we have to talk about the inverse square law. This rule dictates literally every lighting decision on a premium set. If you double the distance between your light source and your subject, the light intensity doesn't just drop by half, it drops to a quarter. It's a massive, steep fall-off. By managing how that light falls away across your scene, you can drop your backgrounds into this beautiful, deep, cinematic darkness while keeping your product brightly isolated.
To actually achieve that rich cinematic dimensionality, you need hyper-specific control over your light. We're talking rim lighting to wrap the edges and define the geometry without flattening the surface below. Grids or honeycombs to force light into tight, precise, narrow beams. But honestly, the real secret weapon is negative fill, using flags or gobos to physically block light. True luxury imagery is often more about controlling where light does not land, making sure your shadows actually have room to breathe, instead of collapsing into flat commercial brightness.
Let's bring it all together in Section 5, opening the conversion window with the three-stage production system. Think of this three-stage pipeline as your bridge. It's the exact process that ensures you can systematically take a totally abstract emotional concept and turn it into a concrete, executable, pattern-breaking final image. Each step acts as a really strict quality gate that you have to clear before moving on to the next. It all kicks off with a creative brief, and really, it has to answer these three non-negotiable questions. Who nails down the precise psychographic identity your buyer wants to step into? What locks in that tactile material tension we just talked about? And why provides the subconscious metaphor that actually triggers the emotional response? If you skip over this, you're just making a boring product document, not a desire creation engine. Next is the Stage 1.5 protocol. This is your tonal translation phase, and it's a massive quality gate. This is where you translate those fuzzy, abstract emotional goals into hard, measurable technical variables. Going for survival or armor? Okay, that dictates a harsh, single-point light source on a highly textured surface. If the brief says mystery or luxury, you're translating that directly to large softbox rim lighting, smooth glass, and negative fill flags. It leaves zero room for misinterpretation once you're actually on set. The big takeaway here is that extreme, grounded specificity is what triggers a massive emotional orienting response. Generic, aspirational lifestyle stuff just doesn't cut it. For example, instead of broadly targeting a car owner, what if you targeted a meticulous 54-year-old driver who actively tracks his engine temperature on winding mountain roads? That kind of specific, authentic detail instantly commands empathy and grabs the attention of your core buyer. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to keep this final distinction front and center. Pretty pictures merely document reality. They're evenly lit, they're bright, and they are entirely expected. High-converting assets, they manufacture desire through disruption. They use contrast, heavy shadows, and completely unexpected material tension to trigger the brain's orienting response. I'll leave you with this to chew on. As you look at your own visual campaigns moving forward, I want you to ask yourself a pretty provocative question. Are your images just sitting there documenting reality, or are they actively engineered to manufacture desire? Think about how you can use a complete pattern interrupt to finally bypass that cognitive fatigue and rip open the conversion window for your brand.